Hello, beloved survivors. This is Autumn. The following episode was recorded on Valentine's Day and the day after the Jewish holiday of Tu Bishvat. And we just want you to know that before you listen so that some of the things that happened during the introduction make sense. Enjoy.
Reading the Torah in a set way, it has this medicine that's waiting for us. And then following the calendar says, you're going to think about destruction now. Whether or not it's a live theme in your life, people before you, in the heat of summer, think about destruction. So show up for it.
I'm Autumn Brown, front woman of the soul pop band Autumn, a queer science fiction writer, theologian, a mother of dragons, and a healing justice facilitator for social movements living on Dakota and Anishinaabe land currently known as Minneapolis.
And I'm Adrienne Marie Brown, a luscious Black queer witch writer auntie, an apocalyptic cosmic optimist, and a gardener of healing ideas. I live in the land of the Shakori, Skarure, Tuscarora, and Lumbee peoples, 2 hours from the mountain and 2 hours from the sea. And my sweetie just walked in. Hey, baby.
And this
is, oh, sorry.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh my God! That's so sweet!
What is it? What do you? I want to give you
I
some.
love you.
Wait, let's all guess what it is.
Okay, you're right.
It's a chocolate vulva.
What is
Okay,
it?
New
Okay,
puppy.
It's in a box. It's in a box. She doesn't know what it. She can't see what it is.
Box
I think
of
it's an
crabs.
air fryer. No, she has an
Oh
air fryer.
shit.
What?
Oh.
Oh my God!
Hmm?
Bird of Paradise on top,
Yeah, and it's
Is Pathos?
Yes. And,
on the bottom.
and
and
then
then-
those are babies.
Oh, baby, I love it.
Mwah.
I love you.
Love is so good.
Oh my God.
Wait, can you put it in the shot?
I feel like it should just be in every shot from now on for
Yeah.
all time. Okay, this is so great.
Love that got recorded also.
And I'm like, oh, love is real. Love is so real. Okay.
Wow.
This is
What is it? Is it a bird of paradise?
So so it's three.
It looked like
plants
multiple
in
plants.
one.
Yeah.
So it's bird of paradise. Let's see. Bird of paradise is the main plant here. And then there's pathos growing with it. And some little mushrooms. And then daisies all around it.
Wow. And a
Good
plant in
job,
dirt is like,
sweetie
I'm gonna love you for a
pie.
long time. Like bouquet is like we're coming and
This
going,
is-
but like dirt is like a long
This
term.
is this has been my shift is I'm like, if you really love me, buy me things that don't die. Or aren't dead already, you know?
Yes.
What are we
It's like-
manifesting with this beautiful dying thing? Okay, so what is this podcast?
This is how to survive the end of the world.
Our podcast about learning from apocalypse with grace, vigor, curiosity, and love.
And love. As a reminder, we have no ads. We are fully listener and lover supported.
So join our Patreon for exclusive hot tea. Basically, our Patreon is our OnlyFans.
That's right.
So that's why you should
So-
join it.
That's why you should join it.
Okay.
Today, we are welcoming to the show Rabbi Jessica Rosenberg and Rabbi Ariana Katz, authors of For Times Such as These, A Radical's Guide to the Jewish Year. This book, contemporary companion to the Jewish year cycle, is not only a bellwether for radical Jews who want their lives and practice to be rooted in their political commitments, but also an educational resource in Jewish tradition, holidays, and ritual. With a chapter for each month of the Hebrew calendar, For Times Such as These offers spiritual practices and holiday rituals rooted in movements for racial justice, decolonization, feminism, and queer and trans liberation. Co-authors, Rabbi Jessica and Rabbi Ariana, are longtime friends and comrades. Rabbi Ariana Katz is the founding rabbi of Hinenu, the Baltimore Justice Stiebel, a warm and joyful congregation in Baltimore, Maryland. She is a graduate of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College. Rabbi Jessica Rosenberg, my friend, is an organizer, activist, and writer based in South Minneapolis. She is a graduate also of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College and a core organizer of the Radical Jewish Calendar Project. And we are so excited and honored to welcome them both to our show. Two rabbis.
I'm so grateful to be here.
Hi. Two rabbis on the podcast. I feel like we're going to levitate or something.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the check-in. Or
Okay. We are so excited that y'all are here. And it's also, I want to name the tenderness of it all. We're in a really tumultuous time where there's certain places where there are massive breaks happening within communities and reweavings and reimaginings. And so I just want to name, I'm like, oh yeah, it's really exciting to have you here at this moment, at this tender time for what it means to be Jewish in the world. There's a lot breaking and reforming and shaping. And there's a lot about that we know, and there's a lot we don't know. So I'm really glad y'all have written this book and that you've come, and I get to check us in. So we love to just ask everyone, how are you right now on the clock of this world?
Jessica, you want to go first?
Yeah, it's this is a balm. This is nice. This, I think the last few weeks I've mostly been answering how are you with too busy to have feelings, check. And then every time I have to or get to slow down, I'm I'm crying, or I'm staring at the wall in a way. So it's been, and then moments of sweetness this, of seeing beloved people and getting to be in a conversation that I'm delighted to be in. And yeah, I think we're recording this the day after Tu B'Shvat. It's a Jewish holiday, the full moon in this month, and the New Year of the Trees, and our first winter holiday our winter holiday that starts off a season that points us into spring. And so I'm okay, trees, old, steady, in dirt, connected, trying to feel that more than I actually do, but calling in trees today.
Yeah, fake tree till you make tree.
Okay, somebody can cross stitch that for me, right? Okay.
Yes, fake tree till you make tree. That's
fake
for
tree
you.
Till you make tree.
How about you, Ariana?
Well, there's a line from a Howard Nemerov poem called Trees to be steady as a rock and always trembling. Right, you're all oh God, she's going to quote a line from a poem. But
no, I love that. I get so
we love that. We're into that.
People.
Yeah. So that resonates. I mean, I similarly have just been stuffing my Google Calendar so as to avoid feeling things. And I've been, if I do have a feeling, I just turn it into a lasagna. So that's been good. I've been panic cooking. Literally, no. I had this ancestral meltdown in the bean bulk section, and now I've been just rehydrating things and cooking them and dropping off lasagnas at my neighbors' houses. And
this does make me want to go to your house and clean out your fridge.
Oh, we're just so clean.
Really?
No,
okay.
Yes. And I definitely am having this feeling of I have to clean stuff out so I can stock supplies. I know that it's rooted in the big scary, but it's cute to talk about soaking beans. So that's how I'm doing. Yeah, and then just enjoying running after my toddler, and that's a life-giving thing that sometimes sucks me out of I can be really present, and then sometimes I think about babies and then get really overwhelmed. So it's beans and babies are sometimes grounding and sometimes really intense.
Oh, wow. I'm already very happy about this conversation. And I woke up grumpy this morning. I woke up I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, literally. And I wasn't, fortunately, none of my kids they had the day off of school today. They got to sleep in. So no one had to see me in that state. And then I got a bouquet of flowers from my sweetheart. And that definitely helped turn my day around. And we happened to be FaceTiming when the flowers got delivered. So it was
Perfect.
Very romantical. And then I also got a Valentine card from one of my children who's studying French. And the Valentine card is entirely written in French.
Bon.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Comme si, comme ça.
It literally says, Je suis ton jumelle, meaning I am your twin. It's giving me so much life. It's not the only phrase that's in there, but it's like, it's so good. It's so good. So So I'm like having one of those days that started off kind of like rickety and it's like it's valiantly turning around into a good day.
Wow.
How are you, sister?
Well, I'm very delighted by that. I love like a love offering or statement where it's like, I love you. You're like me. You're
exactly.
That's what I love is the me.
I love you. We look the same.
Yeah. You're so pretty.
Exactly.
So all of that, your children always make me so happy, but I'm having a really good day. I woke up this morning. There was something that I was putting out into the world this morning, and it was like at a set time that was very auspicious. And it was like, we're sending this off into the world on Love Day. It's a project about love, and it's something that I'm just like very excited to be like manifesting in the world and focusing on. So I woke up this morning and just went into ritual and song and just being like, what is it how I keep processing the world is being like, okay, like I don't want to be living in a state of reaction. I am tethered to Turtle Island. I'm tethered to something underneath this nation. And it's just landing for me that I'm like, I'm like, this is the trick of modern politics is they make us settle for something that was never enough and then make us fight to keep it. And so we find ourselves fighting. I'm like, no, you can't take away this thing that was barely the fucking thing anyway. I'm like, oh, I don't want to play that game anymore. I'm excited for all the strategies that need to play out right now. Many of them are resistant strategies and I'm like down for that. But in me, what is welling up is this like excitement to be relating to the land and just be like directly like where there is no doctor and like what does my community actually have and know. And I went to my doctor today and she was awesome. Like we had a really human conversation where I was like, what do I need to worry will not be available maybe? Like, what should I get vaccinated now? What should I do? And it was like, you're in pretty good shape. Like you're in as good shape as you can be for the unknown and you're heading in the right direction. I deadlifted this week and I swam 45 minutes this week. And so I'm just feeling very like, kind of like I'm feeling very alive, very alive. Yeah. And I think there's also something about like the collective discontent that I'm like, I can feel the pain and the sadness, but I'm also like all those people, hopefully part of our job is to feel like that anger you're feeling about being fired and you didn't think that was going to happen to you. Like, I hope that we can harness that into like, you belong here. Come to Turtle Island, come over here to the justice side and like join the Working Families Party and like, let's go, So I'm feeling, I guess, optimistic. I guess that's the
Cosmically
word. Cosmic optimistic. Right? Yeah. It's real. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Love it. I love that for you. Love deadlifting for you.
I really love deadlifting.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to, I was like, how much do these billionaires weigh? I just want to be able to lift them. I'll put them back down nicely. Right? I'll put them back down nicely, but I just want to be able to like, be like, you can't lift me. I'm going to lift you.
Oh, but I thought you were going to be lifting them while they were dead.
Isn't that what deadlifting means?
Oh my gosh. I never thought about moving the bodies. Wow.
Someone's going to have to. All right. So we're going to start with your beautiful book project, but we're going to start with talking about the book in the context of its publication, because your book, For Times Such as These, came into the world in the midst of a genocide against the Palestinian people committed by the Israeli government under the political cover of Zionism. Tell us about the journey of this book and what it has meant to you to bring it into the world in the midst of such a horrifying inflection point in this 75 years and counting, 76 years now of occupation.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, I mean, this is like the hard and right place to start for us, I think. So, yeah, we worked on the book from summer 2018 to September 2023.
Wow.
And yeah, I want to start with saying we started it. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it was a journey. We began at the Shabbat after Melanie K. Kantorowicz died, Zichron Livracha, may her memory be for a blessing. So she was a Jewish Dyke organizer, writer, one of the co-founders of Jews for Racial and Economic Justice. And like, so the Shabbat after she died, we gathered her books around and we were like, she left us the way, like she left us books, and her writing and her organizing fed each other. And can we do that? And so that was like, we always want to honor her in like the liftoff, the blessing of the book. And then we, spent many years learning and writing and living it. And then, we handed it in like September 2023. And so, like the whole time that we were writing it, the context of increasing fascism and violence in Palestine and here felt urgent and important to share a vision for anti-Zionist Jewish life and Judaism for collective liberation. Like we knew, there has been this like slow and steady tearing, and it felt like we are witnessing and part of a different kind of Judaism and Jewish life that's being born. And also like there's an urgency to creating that and creating the bookshelf for that and the resources for that. And, that feeling that of the 75 years of occupation and 100 years of colonization, the whole time we were writing. And when we handed it in September 2023, we could not have imagined the context it would come out in March 2024 and the like, specifics of the unfolding. And so then I'll say like winter 23-24, like last winter, I think most leftist Jews, most anti-Zionist Jews, ourselves very included, were feeling like rage and heartbreak and also a lot of shame and uncertainty about the viability of liberatory Jewish futures while genocide is being perpetrated in the name of Jewish safety. And we know, and this is like, we know it's U.S. military industrial complex. We know it's Christian Zionism that is like fueling so much of this. And also there's like pictures of Israeli soldiers in Gaza with like a menorah after they've bombed a house. And you're just like, what is the future? Like, what are we doing here? Like, how do I light my menorah when that is what I'm seeing? And what I'll say is that like, I think the book coming out and then getting to bring the book to different communities taught me what we knew when we were writing the book, that the genocide almost made us forget, which is that Judaism and Jewishness are older than and will outlive Zionism. And like,
yes,
our bones know that, our ritual knows that, and we have to like remind each other and tell each other of that. So that's like, part of the book coming out is like the book reminding us of what we were writing it for. And I'll say, I think like maybe just like one more thing on this is that like part of the project of the book is to offer a nuanced anti-Zionist and diasporous Jewish culture and tradition and ritual that is not only about Palestine and Palestinian liberation, because that's like, first of all, tokenizing the Palestinians. Like they're not, Palestinian life is like, is not about a tool for Jewish ritual. Like we have to create anti-Zionist ritual that integrates our political commitments in deep and meaningful ways and is also woven with our spiritual commitments for queer liberation and land back and anti-racist organizing and disability justice and all the other things. And this is about a commitment to and a love of Judaism that extends like far beyond the narrow practice of Zionism and white supremacy and all of what is, being embodied there. And the book coming out in this moment of genocide in Gaza and also like the 2024 election and also climate chaos and also structural collapse, it just feels like, I think it was like, okay, remember that the ancestors have left us gifts and that we need each other to open those boxes of gifts, like open what they've left us. And it was both like way harder than I thought it would be for the book to come out and then like way more life-giving and stirring and like, okay, this is what we have to do for it to come out when it did.
Wow.
That's my long answer to that.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I really appreciate the answer that you were just offering us, Rabbi Jessica, because I think that there's something around holding the fullness of the complexity of a moment of being like, we're trying to change something. We've been trying to change that. This is not our awakening. Like we've been along this path, and the thing we're trying to change is now showing itself so brightly that it's like, that's why we're trying to change it, because the cruelty of standing in a place with something sacred and using it to celebrate something violent and something that goes against the tenets of your very religion is so wrong. And it's just like, see, that's wrong. And that's, we thought that was wrong. And here we are offering other ways. So we wanted to talk about the cultural spiritual practice of storytelling, which means we're giving special attention to the stories we tell and retell about ourselves and the world around us. As y'all were developing this book, what did you learn about the ways that people and human communities rely on myth and story during times of crisis and collapse? And do you possibly have thoughts to share on the dangers of this kind of storytelling?
Oh, yeah. The back section of our book, the third section, talks through every Torah portion that we read throughout the year. So a lectionary has a set rhythm for what's said when, and the Torah readings align more or less with a specific month and season. And there is such a gift that happens more often than not that we sit down to read the Torah portion, and there's a wink there of something that was waiting for us for this year when we read this text. We read the same Torah, the same 5 books of Moses every year, and there's like a common phrase that says the Torah doesn't change, but we do. And so every time we come around again to this text, it is there waiting for us to either fight with or be comforted by, likely both. So, I mean, the first thing I think about is that that myth and story gives us set times to engage with specific themes. So the holidays move through a cycle as well that focus on, we've been touring this, so I have the like easy arc: return and repair, rest, rededication, regeneration, and then into defiant joy, liberation, revelation, destruction, pleasure, and then we start all over again. And so we're following that year cycle that is calling us into this wave in a circle. Each of these themes flows into the next, but is nurtured and nurtures the theme that comes next. And so reading the Torah in a set way, it has this medicine that's waiting for us. And then following the calendar says, you're going to think about destruction now, whether or not it's a live theme in your life, people before you in the heat of summer, think about destruction. So show up for it.
Wow.
The second piece, I think, around myth is that it gives us advice and a roadmap. And so Jewish stories are about journeying and trusting in the promise of a future that comes from being in right relationship with the divine and the people around us and the earth. And Jewish stories are about surviving calamity, the collapse of God's house, and how we find ourselves connected to God, how we betray each other, survive enslavement, long for children, lose children. We get advice on how to behave and then how to not behave. And we have these imperfect ancestors that we get to see our own imperfections in, think we might do better than, likely not, given the same circumstances, and return to them every year. And then myth gives us comfort. Like, we need good stories. We need, like, this is my, emotional support sacred text, and I need to hear the same story over and over again. And even if I wrestle and trip over the same pieces that hurt me last year, I'm, God willing, in a community or in a group of people that I get to do that with. And the rhythm, especially when we are actively trying to be dysregulated on every part of life, is really calming and a companion as we're being pulled off course, or trying to be pulled off course.
I love that.
So Ariana just said all the like sweet comforting parts of myth and
Yeah.
story, and now I'll be
Danger.
like the danger.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good. No, it's
Sometimes
important to
hold
like
those roles actually.
yeah, she's the mom. And I don't know what I am.
It's like Big Daddy Danger.
The Funkle.
Oh,
That's fully accurate. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this question about like the danger of myth and story that develops in crisis is like, well, in some ways it's like the whole reason that I went to rabbinical school was to like share more of our teachers. Aurora Levins-Morales has in her book, Medicine Stories, has this essay, Historianas Curandera, where she's like, learn people's history or like learn the history that's not taught and bring it as medicine. And I was like, okay, I'm going to like looking at the occupation in Palestine and being like, how are my people doing this? And being like, I'm going to learn what happened and then like figure out what the different what we're going to do. We're going to like, we're just, job of Rabbi together. We're going to heal a few thousand years of collective trauma. And weirdly didn't learn all of that at rabbinical school. Turns out like no one knows exactly how to do this. But one of the things, we're putting it together, but like one of the things that I think has become clear to a lot of us is like the way we tell Jewish history is one of the impacts of trauma and collective and historical trauma, is that there's a narrative of anti-Semitism and anti-Jewish oppression as perpetual and inevitable. And that like real experience of like anti-Semitism and attempted genocide of Jews and forced conversion of Christianity and like all of these things, which like really don't happen and are still happening,
Right.
has gotten kind of like calcified into the story of we will always and forever be oppressed. And part of what like going to rabbinical school and learning and like reading biblical texts and studying biblical history, one of the things we learn is that like the Torah, the core story that Ariana was talking about, like the oral tradition, what like after centuries of oral tradition, when it got actually like redacted or put down into a more set version, started to happen during this is what we're talking about like 2,000 plus years ago. So who knows? But historians' best guess is that happened after the destruction of the first temple and during the Babylonian exile, and that it was like very shaped by the experience of displacement and trauma in like what version gets in there.
Wow.
And then a lot of rabbinic Judaism, so the like rabbinic texts is like the Talmud and again, kind of like that roadmap that Ariana laid out, like that's where they took all of the stories of the Torah and then kind of like shaped it into the holiday arc that we have today, is very much in the shadow of the destruction of the Second Temple and the Roman exile, and which again, kind of what exactly was happening is big and complicated in many things. But to your question of like the danger of myth in times of crisis is like Jewish story got formed very much around these times of calamity and crisis. And then over the centuries, one of the things that happened is that like a collective identity around that destruction and exile and trauma has like part of what we've seen has gotten really calcified of like, this is forever and inevitable. And an inability to see also like Jewish thriving and surviving and the depth and beauty and nuance of diverse Jewish cultures across the diaspora. And so part of, I think, like the struggle and challenge of like our work and the book and like Jewish life today is how do we, without minimizing real violence and threat and harm, also say there's other things that are happening and like not only tell a story that is shaped around this like moment of intense violence, but like be in. And part of what this is like, part of what we hope with the book and being in the year cycle is like the beauty of what Ariana shared about kind of like actually there's like grief and joy and liberation and repair, like it's all there, and can we feel more of that?
I'm going to ask the two of you a question because we on Tisha B'Av, on the morning observance in the middle of summer, we sit on the floor, we like upend the furniture, and we literally weep for the destruction of the temple 2,000 years ago.
Mm.
Like we feel it as if it's our own.
Mm-hmm.
And we break a glass at a wedding in part in evoking the story of a rabbi saying like, how can you be so happy at this wedding? The temple was destroyed. And that's like, that's a very long time ago, but we're supposed to live it as if it's a memory that we have. And I think I'm just like so in the world of it.
Mm.
I would love to hear just like, what is that like? Is that something that you have of remembering something 2,000 years old and feeling it that viscerally? Because I think sometimes it's a gift and sometimes it's doing that thing Jess is saying of keeping it too much as a central idea.
Wow, this is a really interesting question.
It's your show, I know. Sorry about that.
That's all right. We love to talk.
I was like,
It's a gift and a curse. You know, I think about how, for me, the moments that have come to me of reliving a core trauma of my people has not been by choice, typically. It's been being inhabited by an ancestral experience that has decided to flow through me. And so it's interesting to think about, you know, I guess my hot take on that is, oh, you all are doing it by choice because you received the stories and it's an expectation. And when you don't receive the stories, then they're going to still find their way to flow through, you know, the future people. We're the future people currently. And it just won't necessarily happen by choice. But whether it's by choice or not by choice, I think there is a like, what is the purpose of this reliving? And is the purpose of the reliving to be more clear about my current reality, or is it distorting my current reality? You know, which is part of what I'm hearing, the thing that you all are wrestling with and that many Jews are wrestling with, right? That like the thing that I wrote down was exile as identity makes belonging always out of reach.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like if exile is core to your identity, then you can't actually belong anywhere, regardless of how much you belong there. because it's not really it would actually be a counter story to your core identity. And I think Black folks in the US, well, in any diasporic context, but I know my context, I think that we deal with a version of this for sure. And I think for me in my political work, it's become one of my core questions is like, oh, are we willing to belong to something? Are we willing to belong somewhere? Are we willing to actually feel a settling in our nervous systems and not be defined by a core, but also very recent. Like when you think, and when I say recent, I'm obviously not meaning recent as in like in the last couple of decades, but when you think about the whole host of human history, the traumas that we're talking about are recent. Enslavement is recent. You know, the Holocaust is very recent. The destruction of the first and second temples are also still recent. You know what I mean? It's long ago. It's not actually that long ago. And there's, I mean, Adrian and I talk about this a lot, that like, right, there is a version of humanity that is pre-colonization, you know, that is like fundamentally indigenous and has many ways of practicing belonging. But those aren't necessarily the rituals that we live and relive, right? So it's like, I don't know. I think it poses a really interesting question around spiritual practice. Like, what are we reliving? What are we retelling?
yeah.
Well, and can I say the thing about exile? If identity is exile, then there's no belonging. Like that's what Zionism needs, is for Jews to never be home in diaspora or never be able to make any kind of home, and
Right.
and that Zionism sells a like, here's where you will have belonging and safety is behind these guns and these walls and in this specific land. And so that's like part of why, like part of the, you know, and there's in the book where we talk about like radical diasporism, which is a term coined by Melanie K. Cantor. It's around like building a political and spiritual identity around making home where we are in ways that while working for land back and indigenous sovereignty in all the places that we are, while, you know, all the complexity of land, of like living on land in all the places that like, there's how do we make belonging, and how do we hold and again kind of like tender towards our ancestors that created identity around exile, and to say like that served a sense of community and collectivity that kept people together for a lot of millennia, and I'm not going to judge that. I'm going to love that, and then also say we're going to make a different kind of belonging now. We're going to make a different identity now around belonging and not around exile.
I am so moved by this piece here, because this piece around belonging feels like it's like, oh, what is the deepest wound that humans can experience truly? It's like not feeling that you belong. And it's the place where in which I'm always able to generate my compassion for people, where I'm like, if you're being a bully, if you've turned to violence, if you've turned to supremacy thinking, if you turn to these things, probably up under there is a wound in the realm of belonging. And so I'm like, oh yeah, we're holding the tenderness of humanity, where it's like, where were you wounded? Here's where we were wounded, which I think is a very different way. But when you asked that question back to us, Ariana, two things came to mind. You know, one was, enslavement. And yeah, like there's a way that I've been in a lot of Black space where it's like, yes, that's the thing that makes us feel like a thing together, right? Which I think is a little different, maybe, but you can tell me. But that feels one of the differences is that like there was not Blackness before this mass shared trauma that happened to a bunch of different peoples from a bunch of different places in Africa. And then all of a sudden that trauma made of us a people who are, I think, still trying to figure out what we are and what that means and how we relate to the place that stole us and that doesn't seem to want us and wants to kill our babies, and where slavery is still okay for those of us who are locked up. And, you know, there's just so many things where like the bad has never actually ended, you know? So I'm like, yeah, that's complex. And then I think there's the second thing that I thought of was like Jesus on the cross, and like growing up being like, I've got to eat the body of this person and drink the blood of this person, you know, and like that, and we have to talk about it every year. We have to talk about the cross and like what happened and what they did to Jesus, and why Jesus came. Jesus came here for all of us. And I feel like growing up,
why was he tortured? He got tortured.
I was like, why did you torture? Why did you? It was for us. It wasn't because there was a like rich asshole ego king person maybe involved. No, okay. So then I think there's, you know, what also flips inside of that is I'm like, I've been thinking so much about Christians and Christian Zionism and my relationship to Christians and how separate it feels from my relationship to Jesus. But I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's because like growing up, it was like the story of Jesus was the one that really aligned with what my family was up to, which was like, we're here on a mission of love. We're here on a mission of belonging. We're here on a mission of acceptance. We're here on a mission of all these positive, good things. So, you know, this idea that like Jesus was here to do this very specific thing for us, which was a coming together and an act of love and forgiveness and compassion. And I'm like, oh, that still resonates to me as maybe the only piece of the religion of Christianity that really makes sense. I'm like, that's the thing that is a through line from like the 10 Commandments to a God who created a Garden of Eden and into this Palestinian person who was born in a manger, who grew up to be like, hey, richness is not the way. I'm like, that makes sense to me. And almost nothing else really does at this point. You know, when I look at what are Christians writ large doing in the world versus what I grew up in the ritual and myth of, I can't recognize, there's no like connection between the two. And I think that resonates, you know, as I'm listening to you, that you're like, yeah, we do these beautiful sets of rituals that are all about patience and listening and grief and belonging and connectedness. And meanwhile, people are using our religion to do things that are about removing people from belonging and making people feel like you guys could go land anywhere, but we live here. You know, like just that. I'm like, that's not Christian. That's not Jewish. That's not something God gave us, you know, that came from somewhere else. Anyway, so I think that this idea of like the stories we tell over and over again, somehow it's like, how do they sink in deeper than the trends or what the charlatans want to do with, you know, the obedient part of us that's like, I want to belong to religion. I want to belong to God. I want to belong to community. And they're like, okay, we'll take that beautiful thing you want to do, and we're going to use it against
Yeah.
others. You know,
I'm having a full circle. It's like a closing the circle on the exile as identity piece. Just thinking about Jesus as a Jewish man and thinking about that ability to be in such deep rejection of empire, and such deep rejection of wealth as also being deeply related to exile as identity, right? Like he would have been in that already, that like, you know.
yeah.
Anyway, so it's just interesting to think about like that there is this like, you know, and one of the things I love about Jewish practice, right, is the sense of like whatever it is that's giving us comfort is also the thing we're wrestling with. Like that is kind of that tension, I feel like, is always at the heart of Jewish spiritual practice, and which I think so many people have so much to learn about from Jewish practice. And that being this thing that we've uncovered being one of those things that like, well, what can exile give to us in terms of our ability to truly release our attachment to the way things are? You know, and also what is exile doing to us? if it's the subscribed to reality.
Yeah.
Okay. Talking about crisis and climate. Okay. The Jewish year is built around this sense of seasonality, of seasonal practice. Also loved the like New Year of the Trees or whatever that was. I was like, how many things get their own whole new year? And
4.
Is it like
There's 4 New
things?
Years. Yeah.
Got it. I thought so. I was just like, how many years are there in the Jewish year?
You're thinking, yes, that's exactly the right road to walk.
Great. I'm like, let's put a pin in that. I want y'all to explain. Well, I know we're going to talk about Jewish relationship to time, so that should help clarify what that is. But first, the thing that we wanted to ask you is about having seasonal practices in the context of climate collapse. So how do you have spiritual practices that are responsive to specific things happening at specific times of year when we are in increasing disorganization of like climate reality, where where we can no longer trust that things are going to happen at the time that we believe that they were going to happen. So one, how do you do that? But also two, what's the purpose of maintaining that sense of seasonal practice even as things start to splinter and kind of come apart?
This is such a good question, and I feel this very deeply and more every year as the seasons change. So the Jewish year, our holidays are on a seasonal cycle that is based on the weather and climate in Palestine. And, you know, this is like important to name, like as anti-Zionists, we also don't deny Jewish connection to that land from before nation states.
Right.
You know, that is like where our many stories begin, and like many of the holidays are based around the season, the like harvest and planting and season there. And our ancestors have like taken it across diaspora for millennia and have been doing holidays like out of sync with the weather, like in lots of places. And so we in writing the book, we were like, oh shit, like what happens in the Southern Hemisphere? Like, cause you know, like you're still doing Hanukkah in the Southern Hemisphere on like the longest date. Like we're used to it being a longest night thing. And then it's happening. And so, yeah, like, so there is something about, I love your face right now, Autumn. Yeah. So there is something about, there's some like wisdom that's already
really
there.
A long night, you guys.
Yeah. There's some wisdom that's already there about like seasonal holidays traversing the seasons. And at the same time, it is very upsetting to be sweating in your sukkah. Like that's the harvest holiday that happens in October, November. Like you are not supposed to be schwitzing in your sukkah. It's wrong. Where we live. Thank you. It's like the
it's a hut. You're giving a very nice description. It's a temporary outdoor
structure. You build a little, a little, and with walls
tent,
you can
if
see
you will.
through. Yeah, like a wooden, and you have like
more
plants
than a
on
tent,
top.
but less than a house.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have
so
to be
it's
able to. Oh, sorry.
You go with the law. You go with the halachic, with the good.
It's a temporary structure that has a roof that is open enough that you can get rained on and be vulnerable to the elements, and that you can see the stars through, but that provides you with shade. And you're supposed to just sit down, just sit in the sukkah, just hang out.
So really not a tent at all. Actually.
No.
Well, you're also supposed to be able to sleep in it and eat in it. And it's both like of the ancestors wandering after the liberation in Exodus. They're like temporary structures as they're wandering, and also the harvest. You're like in the fields, you're harvesting, and you can't schlep back to the house. You like build a temporary structure. And the holiday comes like really beautifully right after the Jewish New Year and the time when we've done the most like conflict repair work. And then we're like, okay, now you just sit and eat a meal together and you have a little slumber party outside. So beautiful. We love Sukkot. And it's like a fall holiday. You're supposed to, in the places where we grew up, like you're a little bundled, and we have had some like sunburned sukkahs in the last couple of years. And I think like for me, it's like, we have to create like new grief practices for when the season comes. Like, in some way, I think it's helpful because of how normalized climate chaos is right now and how we're just supposed to all go about our business. And so to have a holiday that comes around the same time every year, and then you feel the weather change, like it's very like brings your attention and you cannot look away. And I think like that is a kind of gift of having a seasonal holiday that brings our attention back. And so much of them are like what's happening with the earth, or there's a layer of that in every Jewish holiday. So I think like that is, that's a big part of it. And then I think about the like, so much of the holidays do have these kind of like in their original instructions, like foods you're supposed to eat, things you're supposed to build, like physical things. And so we are kind of like, okay, as we're bringing more attention, as we're bringing more grief, and like, are we also like, I learned how to build a sukkah this year for the first year. This was the first year that I built a sukkah, and it both involved me building a relationship with my not Jewish neighbor who's a carpenter, and was like, hey, Mike, can you help me out? I don't know how to build things. And like learning how to use tools that I hadn't used before, and like where the lumber yard is. And also like, I was like, this is a little like safety apocalypse practice, is that like my non-Jewish neighbor is going to like learn more about a Jewish holiday and be like more invested in it. And he was like, spiritual service. I'm so grateful. Thank you for letting me do this. And it was like,
we love you, Mike.
Tender. Yeah. So I don't know, that's some of what's been happening for me in it.
Well, there's also during Sukkot, there's a part of our liturgy that changes from praying for rain for praying from dew to praying for rain, because we're thinking about the harvest and what the earth needs. And we say it on the last day of Sukkot because we don't want to get rained on before then. And there's this idea that like, let's keep it just dewy, and then when we're ready to leave our sukkah, then the rain can start. And I think having text and rhythm around hoping for the seasons to do a specific thing at a specific time, there's literally language for it. And so in addition to noticing if it's happening or not, we also have a technology of yearning for the earth to be in rhythm, for us to be in rhythm with the earth, but also for the earth to be in its own rhythm. And back to, we didn't name shame as one of the things that in the exile conversation, but there is so much text in Torah that says, if you follow my commandments, then the rain will come in its season and the earth will yield its due. But if you don't, it's going to be bad. It's going
to go off the rails.
And so I think that's a pitfall, right? So like the gift is we can yearn for seasonality and we have the words to do it. But one of the challenges is that, each of us individually is supposed to be like, oh, well, I didn't light Shabbat candles on time. I didn't XYZ. And that's why climate chaos is here, which is a trick that's played on us in so many different spheres of life with feeling shame for an aching planet.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so helpful. It's so generous of y'all to share all this with us, because I think, there's these ways that I'm like, I hear it, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like I can understand people coming up with this way of being in relationship to the earth and to each other. And we want to pivot here because we have so many people who are seeking the integration of political life and spiritual life. And I think it's one of the main kind of questions we get over and over again. It's one of the main things I see show up in the comments of my world. And we want to ask you how the seasonal and cyclical practices and just this relationship to time that you all have can help people feel a sense of belonging and purpose, even in such a disorganized time as this, right? Where everything is changing. But then here we go with the cycle.
I think that for Jewish life to work, we need other people to do it with. And so like you can be observant in isolation, but there are some parts of a service that you can't do by yourself, a part of a prayer, a rich prayer life cycles that are impossible to do on your own. And I think that the understanding that we need other people to be able to do our organizing life, our spiritual life, the places where it's actually the same thing. I think that feels like it's just an important skill and something that I've heard both all three of you and other wise ones talk about is like now is not the time to make more division between ourselves and others, and to get really good at compromising. And I like organized some people I've been fighting with for the past 500 days yesterday. And I really didn't want to do it, but they're very powerful. And I want them to move with me. And I want to move with them. And I think that the ability to compromise, right? Like you're not going to find a shul that you feel fully 100% aligned with, but you need somewhere, a synagogue.
No, I was pointing at you like, except for Hinenu, the Baltimore Joshua. No, but actually, even in our, well, this is part of what we find, even in our like lefty things, you still have conflict. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, but all right.
More.
Yeah.
The groove I was on was just, we're never going to be 100% satisfied in whatever space we're in. And so learning how to find out where there is space for movement and collaboration, I think it's like a skill that you say like, okay, I don't feel like I belong here. What can I stretch into to feel like I belong here? What is my overarching vision and purpose that I can bring to a space that doesn't feel like it's fully mine? And then how do I bring someone a lasagna I made in panic and it stitches us closer to each other?
Yeah. It also sounds like you're, as you were saying that, like the season, it's like, even if you're not getting along or even if you're having conflict, it's seasonal, it's cyclical. And there's a time for turning directly and facing the conflict that's actually built into the cycles. That's one of my favorite things. I remember when I first heard, I was like, y'all have a whole holiday just to apologize? Yes. Like, can everybody have an apology holiday? Like, and I would get such nice messages from the Jewish people in my life during that time, I still do.
Well, and there's also, the thing is like, there's one day, there's actually like a month before then. Like, it's actually a whole month and a half of the Jewish year.
Because
like,
when I was with a Jewish person,
day.
I was just like, this is my favorite month of the year.
Well, and I'm like, oh, Ariana, you were just saying we'll never be 100% satisfied. And I was like, that's what the pleasure ritual is for, right? Like you have a ritual at the end of the cycle that's about pleasure. And it's like, oh, even that, it's interesting to think about that as like medicine for all of the ways that we feel unsatisfied in our lives, that we get to have a ritual that's about satisfaction or something like that.
Right before the month where we think about all of our transgressions at each other. Like we fall in love and we flirt and then we say, okay, who have I screwed over this year and how have I not lived into who I am? It gets resourced to do that.
Wow.
We love. Yeah. I want to say on the like political, spiritual integration, because I feel like we spend like half our time in like kind of like quote unquote spiritual ritual spaces being like, okay, are we getting the politics right? And then half our time in political organizations being like, should we sing more or less? Or like, how are we doing this holiday? So like, and I think like as anti-Zionist Jews, we have actually like we have it pretty good, honestly. Like, I mean, we're drugs in some ways, but as far as like spaces where people have at least like some, you know, are kind of like, okay, I'm doing like Hanukkah in this as a direct action to stop the genocide in Gaza. And also we have songs, some of them 1,000 years old, that we're going to sing during that. Like that's like, amidst incredible horror and how do I have to say thank you for that. And I like, because not everyone has that. And like many people have been isolated from culture and cultures have been destroyed. Like, you know, it's like not benign why people don't have that. And I think there's like you're making an offering even in how you're phrasing the question of how can seasonal and cyclical practices help people towards political and spiritual integration. Part of it is like, you just have to try, and then you have to try again next year, and then you have to try again next year.
Yeah.
And like, it's going to be awkward the first 1 to 5 years. Like, or our whole lifetime, but then the babies will like have it a little less awkward. And like what we do as like awkward first time things will be ritual and tradition for them. And it actually doesn't take very long for someone to become a tradition. Like if you think about like, you know, anyone like where it's like, we always do this on my birthday, or we always do or like, these are the people I always spend XYZ thing with. Like it takes like twice, like the third time it's a ritual, you know? And so part of like for people, or like, how do I, in my political space, bring more, whether, you know, spiritual or just like, what is my purpose on the planet if spiritual doesn't resonate? Like, I mean, the big reveal is like most of our political spaces, like you're not the only one who's hungry for that. And like, so bring it and let it be a little awkward and find the other people who want to do that. And then like have a meal around it, have a song around it, and like, let it be awkward the first time and then do it again next year. That's like, I think that's what I got.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
I feel so comfortable doing faith-based organizing also because everyone's bringing like their comfiest sweater and ideally is grounded in what feels like home, and then showing up to the same place wearing their sweaters.
And by sweaters, you mean our religions, our spiritual
practices?
Yes.
I mean millennia of deeply developed and personally held. And I think it also, we when we do multi-faith organizing, we're contextualized to a group of people that feel like other or unknowable. And interfaith organizing has this amazing power to be actually multiracial, cross-class in a way that so many organizing spaces haven't figured out. And I know,
So true.
I know how violent religion can be, especially to our queer and trans family and to people who ask questions in the wrong room. Like, I know that religion is not a safe thing by default, but I think the potential there and what we have seen of multi-faith movements for justice, it also cuts through, it has the potential to cut through so many things that keep us apart.
Thank you for that.
Hell yeah. We were going to ask you a question about care, but I want to talk about time. I'm going to
try to answer both. I'm going to try to
about
talk
to
about
say
care
that-
and
that's
time.
a-
Like, okay,
Okay.
challenge accepted.
Okay. I'll frame up both questions so that, and then y'all can tag team. The first question is the planned question. As rabbis and organizers, I know that both of you think a lot about care, practices of care, theologies of care in your own traditions. We're wondering if you can talk about the potential of cultural, spiritual communities to serve as networks of care and solidarity, even as the state continues to oppress us and divide us against ourselves. That's question number one. But two, Jewish spiritual practice has a really different relationship to time. And it seems to me that there's some like multiplicity, like multiple years happening inside of 1 year, many different timelines kind of coexisting. And I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about what we have to learn right now from the Jewish spiritual orientation to time. Like if there was one little like lesson you could draw, a thread you could pull for us around like, here's a cool thing that Jews think about time that might be a beneficial thing to think about right now in this moment. I would love to hear that.
Yes. I mean, the thing that I most love about Jewish time, one thing that I love a lot about Jewish time is that there's both a linear story, a narrative arc that we're on, and also a seasonal spiral, and they're both happening. The story is around liberation, like that's is around the liberation from enslavement and then receiving wisdom, and it's like very meaningful to me that Torah ends with the people on the edge of the land, and the conquering story is there in the Hebrew Bible, but that's not actually what we read every week. We like the arc of the Torah cycle takes us to this edge, and then we start over again, and in the Torah cycle, and like go back to Genesis, every year. And so that arc is happening of the story of like retelling the story of enslavement and liberation. And then also at the same time in every holiday, we are like harvest, planting, I said that in the right, like planting, like seeding, first fruits, harvesting,
I always confuse
planting.
it too. Yeah.
And so I think like that feels like one, just being in multiple timelines feels very true to my lived experience of the world. And also being like, we're in a new place, we're in the same place, we're in a new place, like in every moment. And I think like that, oh gosh, had the blessing of talking to Susan Raffo about time recently. And we were kind of like talking through,
so much. Okay.
It was all over voice memo. I don't know if we should cut that or not, but on the walk. But
it was over
part
voice
of
memo?
what we're
She was walking.
While she was walking.
So I love this because I was also voice memoing her in that time. I feel like Susan needs to write a book just about the voice memos and like the conversations and all that. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
Yeah.
I just love Susan.
Yes. So learning from our beloved teacher, Susan Raffo, about time and the ways in which the past and future are present. And I feel that very much in Jewish story, that like in every deepening and in every like Jewish holiday or Jewish ritual, like the past and the future are there, and the present is like about the story and about the dream. Like the future is the dream and the present, and the story is the how we got here of the present, and they're all kind of like woven together. And I feel like both as people who are trying to hold the incredible violence that shaped the world that we're living in right now, like this is the ways that colonization and enslavement are here present, like they're not, as you said, like they're not they're past, they're not that far past, they're actually just present, because that shapes the whole reality that we're in. And also like the desire for the world to be different is present, and that I feel like that Jewish story holds that. I answered the time question. I didn't answer the care question, but I want to answer the time
because Ariana's there. Okay. Maybe she has an answer for the care one.
She's going to want to talk about time too.
Oh, sure.
Well, do what you got to do, babes.
Okay.
No, I want to talk about care.
Great. Great. Okay.
So when Abraham is just like boogieing around the land, doing various things, building towers of rocks, buying land, burying people,
acting like his wife is a sister, wife. But I guess she's
like
both.
Twice, bro. And, he's doing a lot of things. And one thing he does is he plants a tamarisk bush, which in Hebrew is an eshel, aleph shin lamed, and a medieval commentator from France who would be able to understand your daughter's love letter callback. Rashi wrote that it's an acronym for achila, shtia, and levaya, for feeding, drinking, and accompaniment. And that those are the elements of hospitality or of care that Abraham embodies. And I think that those three pieces, right, like the material things we need to survive, it's not just aish, it's not just fire, it's not just achilan shtiya, food and water, but it's also levaya, accompaniment, because it's dangerous in the wilderness. And most of our stories happen in the wilderness, in the wild, open place, and that's where we encounter God, but also where we encounter danger. And this tamarisk plant reminds us that the walking with someone, rolling with someone, helping them get from point A to point B is a part of the materials for survival. It's also the name of a Orthodox Jewish queer support group.
Okay.
Which
Stop
is
it.
so
Tamarisk?
important. No, Eshel.
Eshel. Okay. Yeah.
I was
That's
like,
really
cute.
Yeah. And just thinking about like accompanying each other through wilderness, which is so true for Orthodox queer family.
Hell yeah. I need to come to your shul.
Oh my God, please come.
It's true.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can I drop in about like holidays and care, the year cycle and care? Yeah.
Mhm.
Were you?
She's
Ariana,
got
were you
it.
still-
No,
okay.
she's got it
Well,
already.
So this is actually like in the wisdom since writing the book and bringing it out to people. Like in the book, we talk about 3 layers of every Jewish holiday, which is like the seasonal earth connection, the Jewish story that's being told through it, and then the personal growth and spiritual reflection that like every layer of Jewish holiday, you can find an element of that. And even though we like wrote this in there, what we didn't like name explicitly is that every Jewish holiday also has community care built in. Like there is food, there is like festive meal, there is tzedakah or moving money, there is like gifts of food, like for literally every holiday. And I was like, it's both so obvious, I feel like we didn't think to say it, but then it's also actually like so countercultural in capitalism that you would be like obligated towards feeding each other. And that of course that's built into something that's older than the state and, you know, traditions of that fed people over the millennia. And I think that is like such an inspiration for what we need each other for. And like part of the like, you know, to me, even though like I grew up in a synagogue that I'm no longer politically aligned with in a lot of ways, it does feel very healing to acknowledge the parts of what I was raised with that I do want to bring with me. And one of those is like in my family and in my synagogue, like you brought meals for people when their family died, whether or not you liked them. Like that was not like did not come into the equation. Like if you were in the congregation together and someone was sick or someone had died, you brought food. And it was just like, that's what you do. And I think like part of spiritual cultural community, which can also be like our neighborhoods and our blocks, is about community of care and culture where like it doesn't matter how cool you are. It doesn't matter if you like each other. You are like taking care of each other. And I think like I think that's like a big part of what we need right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that it's like happens on the holidays of kind of like, you can't go more than a month or 2 without being like obligated to like eat a meal together with your neighbors.
I love that.
Wow.
I feel like I love that you said that this is like, it's so obvious, but if it predates the state and that piece, because this is the way that I'm like, oh, I think almost all of us can find a way, a tether there that I'm like, if you think about what in your culture or multicultural backgrounds predates the state, it's almost always food. It's almost always eating together, caring for each other, wandering to each other, you know, going to each other in need of care. So I think that's such a, there's just a grounding to that. That's like, oh yeah, like, I think it's one of my favorite things about the way I see so many people holding Judaism and cultural, being like, hey, I don't even do that synagogue part, but I do I do the meals, I do the holidays, I do this. And I'm like, and there's such gorgeous holidays. It just makes such sense to me. That folks are like, oh yeah, this is the older thing that will help us pull our way through this troubled time towards something beyond. And
can I do one on like the, not to paint over the part of the, not to paint over that for most of Jewish history, the obligation to feed each other was Jews feeding other Jews. Like we were in closed communities where like the mitzvot, the obligation, there was some care for, and there was definitely like cultures around care of non-Jewish neighbors, but the like mitzvot, the obligation was towards care for our people. And I feel like the obligation in our time is to expand who we mean by our people, so like I can be like, my ancestors understand they had to care for our people, they understand that in a more limited way than who I understand my people to be. And how do we like, take the gift of the inheritance of like, you are obligated to feed your people. And then the part that needs changing is who is our people and expanding that. Yeah, that is.
I love that. I think someday we could have like a whole part 2 conversation that just talks about some of that, particularly between Black communities and Jewish communities. Cause I think there's so much, alignment of like, yeah, we got to feed our own, we got to take care of our own. And then I think I hear often amongst Black people, like, look at how Jewish folks are taking care of themselves and each other. There's something so beautiful about that level of internal solidarity, in addition to now being like, how do we expand that into something that, and again, that feels like, oh, we have to heal from the story that oppression is our birthright and our identity, so that it becomes possible to be like, there's enough. There's enough for us. There's enough of us. There's enough in the world. We can be generous with each other. And I think that I'm like, I just want to toast to all of our collective healing, so that we can all start to feel enough belonging that we don't have to do anything but belong to each other.
Shake these bones, shake these
Thank you so much, Jessica and Ariana, for being on our show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to our show. We're on Instagram at End of the World PC. We're also
who knows how
much longer.
And both of us have Blue Sky accounts, and we're trying to make the transitions to something.
Or we'll just be a podcast forever.
Yeah, we do have a website. Like,
yeah,
it'll be fun. You can make a sustaining donation to our show, and not gonna lie, with all the cuts of DEI, we need it. So you can visit our page at patreon.com/End of the World Show.
Give now. Another incredible thing you can do to help our show sustain itself is to write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're an iPhone person, why would you do this? It helps people who are looking for good new content to find us. Also, we read them, and it makes us really happy, sometimes on sad days, so thank you.
Yeah, sad days, we're just like, I'm still a great podcaster. How to Survive the End of the World is produced and edited by the sweet, juicy Zach Rosen. And transcripts are in our show notes and on our website, endoftheworldshow.org. I always feel like I'm like responding, I'm like, this is our beloved grub.
He's America's dad.
He is America's daddy.
Music for today's show comes from Tunde Alaniran and the Banksons. And we're out.
And we're out.